I'm back! And I brought a little something for each one of you, so stop your bickering. Boomer, I brought you a semi-auto that even you can enjoy. Well, I do remember when there were a barrel full of these at the hardware store for 20 bucks each. Welcome to the Mr. Mike channel. I recently dropped the SVT-40 video, so I need to go over the story of Fyodor Tokharov's main competitor, Sergei Simonov, and his most widely produced and fielded rifle, the self-loading carbine of the Simonov system 1945, or as it's most commonly known by its initials from the Russian name, SKS-45. Sergei Gavrilovich Simonov, and you need to include the middle name if you want to research him, as apparently there's more than one famous Sergei Simonov, was born in 1894 to a poor family in Fedovto, which is 125 miles east of Moscow. Like Tokharov, he became a blacksmith in his teen years. After showing great aptitude and completing more coursework, Simonov landed in the factory that produced the Fedorov Automat, the rifle that is viewed, if not the first assault rifle, then the father of the assault rifle. After the revolution, Simonov continued at and graduated from the Moscow Polytechnic Institute and went to work at Tula in 1924. By 1926, he was quality control inspector, and in 1927 he was promoted to the Soviet Design and Development Department to work directly under Vladimir Fyodorov, the creator of the Fedorov Automat M1916, which fired the 6.5 by 50 Japanese cartridge, as well as being mentored by Vasily Degtyaryov. While revolutionary, especially for World War I standards, the automat was very complicated, and heat buildup in full auto would render it inoperable after 300 rounds. The late 1920s through the 30s saw the Soviet Union desire a semi-automatic, if not full-auto rifle, to replace the aging bolt-action Mosin Nagant. In this era with Stalinistic purges, Simonov, Degtyaryov, and Tokharov would not only survive, but produce innovative designs. It was the insistence on using the 7.62 by 54R round that really held them back. Simonov's AVS-36 rifle was select fire, but complaints about complication and recoil soon saw a desire for a replacement, Tokharov's SVT-38 and SVT-40. While there were over 1.5 million SVT-40s produced, this paled in comparison to the Mosin Nagant and PPSH submachine guns, which were simpler to produce in the days after the surprise of Operation Barbarossa. Two rifles that bear mentioning are the PTRS-41 and PTRD-41 anti-tank rifles. These fired the 14.5 by 114 mm round and was said to penetrate up to 40 mm of armor at 100 meters. The PTRD was Degtyaryov's design, and the PTRS was Simonov's. Simonov moved elements of the AVS-36 to the PTRS. While both were produced and used, Degtyaryov's was similar and fouled less and became the preferred gun, but remember the PTRS in a bit. As I indicated, both Tokharov and Simonov were bound to producing rifles that fired the full-power 7.62 by 54 rimmed cartridge as the ammo in stock. This philosophy began to change somewhat during the war. Let's jump over to the other side of the war for a moment. Adolf Hitler was very adamant about sticking with the 7.92 by 57 mm round for any rifle developed. Hugo Schmeisser worked on his masterpiece, which became the STG-44, the first true assault rifle. Since Schmeisser had no plans on using the full-powered round, designing it for the new 7.92 by 33 Kurtz, it was called a machine pistol in development, so you might see it referred to as the MP-44. Early models with the machine pistol monikers made it out to the field for limited testing and came back with high reviews. When first presented to Hitler, he was furious, but his bodyguards demonstrated the effectiveness of the new rifle and intermediate round. Hitler happily signed off on producing this new class of rifle. The Soviets actually captured an early prototype of this and noticed that most of their engagements occurred at 100 to 300 meters, too far for submachine guns, but much closer than the 1,000-yard range of the Mosin. A committee headed by Elizarov began working on the Soviet Union's intermediate cartridge, and after conferring with the major gun designers, Tokharov, Simonov, and Degtyaryov, they made the 7.62x41 cartridge. After discovering that adding a boat tail helped even in short distances, they assumed that it only helped in long-distance shooting when the bullet went subsonic. This was added to the bullet, and the 7.62x39 was born. This was adopted as the M43 cartridge. While an assault rifle was desired, Simonov was quick to scale down the PTRS-41 to fire this new round. A pre-production run was produced and given to the troops of the First Belarusian Front in 1944, and this received great reviews. It was adopted in 1945 as the SKS-45. The final product is a gas-operated rifle with a spring-loaded bolt carrier and tilting bolt design which it borrowed from the PTRS. It has a 10-round fixed magazine that is stripper clip fed. It has a folding and attached blade bayonet. After the war, the Soviets concentrated on rebuilding, and they had plenty of rifles in surplus. Full production didn't begin until 1949 at the Tula factory, and was only produced in the Soviet Union through 1958, as the AK-47 was officially adopted in 1949. Most Soviet rifles were made at Tula, although there were 2 years where Ishevsk produced them, 1953 to 1954, which makes these a little more collectible. I made a previous video where I went over inserting a Murray spring on the firing pin of a Norinco SKS, as after the first 2 years of production, the firing pin is free-floating. The 1949 to 1950 vintage rifles very likely have springs on the pin. This means you need to make sure it has free movement in the bolt, or else you risk a slam fire. Only 2.7 million Soviet SKSs were produced. This pales in comparison to the 37 million Mosins, or nearly 75 million AK-47s. Most SKSs in the wild are produced by other nations, but I will leave their history for other videos, as I will do their history separately when I review their rifles. To finish out Simonov's story, in my surface-level research, I couldn't find much about him after the SKS, although he did design the AO-63, which is a twin-barreled AK firing the 5.45x39 round, and was actually well liked in the Abakan trials in the 1980s, but the rifle dropped out. Simonov died in 1986 at the age of 92. A little bit about my rifle. I have a 1952 Tula that I was told was exported to East Germany. The person who told me this has since passed away, but his reasoning was the Russian Navy sling, which he said rifles exported to the DDR were sent with, and the horizontal serial number on the stock. There's really little information out there on East German SKSs, so I've been able to neither confirm or deny. The rifle shoots well, and I've never had any trouble with it, while I had issues with the Norinco I gave away a couple years ago. Sorry, Insight Freedom. And I need to replace a couple parts on my Yugo. Shooting this rifle is always a blast, although speed loading with brand new stripper clips takes a bit of getting used to. The rifle is accurate at 100 yards, which is as far as I've ever taken it. I would have no problem taking this deer hunting if I ever got my vision corrected. Comparison to its contemporaries. In the would I take it to war question, it depends on where in its life cycle I'm going in. Since we're only dealing with the Soviet version of the rifle, this really doesn't give it a long life, but I would take it over the Garand because it's lighter, easier to load, and the ammo is lighter, and I'd also take it over the M14. It is against the FAL where I start to choose against it, although the SKS can definitely hold its own. Many of the conflicts where the SKS shows up are well into the era when the Soviet Union pumped out AK-47s. Please be aware of where your elected officials and the groups that claim to represent you stand on the Constitution. Please join the GOA, the largest no-compromise Pro-2A group out there, and get 20% off your membership when you use my link in the description. If you like my content, please check out my other videos, like, share, and subscribe. Also check out my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and who I support on Patreon. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.